Welcome guys, it's Glenn from Launch. This is part 4 of the series I've been doing with the Pad 7 operation interface. It's for new users, people that are looking at buying the Pad 7 itself, or existing users. And I'm just covering all the modules that the Pad 7's capable of doing and functions that has been added to the Pad 7. But before I finish the last two modules, I wanted to show you that we've added actually other modules to the Pad 7 during these videos, and I wanted to show you which ones what we've been added. So you go to other modules and go to toolbox area, and now you'll see the current clamp, the oscilloscope, multimeter, and a key programmer. Now most of them are related around the EV vehicles themselves, and we'll cover them later on. But the current clamp itself is a new device that we released, and it has a graphing and capabilities and so forth. So I'll show you that in a later video. And also the oscilloscope itself. Now the oscilloscope has been designed for EV, so the software will change to suit EV vehicles in the future. But the equipment itself has been designed for the higher voltages, and it will be then catered for those reasons to diagnose the EV vehicles itself. And this will go back also to the multimeter, which is another one you can purchase. And it's a full function multimeter, but again it's designed around the EV vehicles themselves. And we will cover this in a later video. The one I want to show you also today is the key programmer. Now this these days you can buy aftermarket keys, which are like these ones here, and you can program them to suit the vehicles or clone them to suit the vehicles if the customer needs a new key, and even going down to buying the transducer chip and then cloning that and then putting it in if it gets lost. Now what you'll need to do is you need to purchase a reader such as like this one here, which will come in a kit, but the software has been added to the Pad 7 itself. Now it's as simple as once you get the your reader, the key, you would then, I'm just putting it together, you put the transponder near the reader just to show you, and then once you hit read transponder, I get it to click on, it reads it. So it gives you the information that you require, the transponder 64 and the number of the chip that you need to actually do the cloning of the chip itself. And this goes straight through even down to if I put in the transducer in the ring itself and read the transducer, it'll give me the transducer reading itself. The other function is it's more to do with diagnosis, so you can actually use it to go back in the main. We can generate and generate a new remote, the frequencies on these aftermarket keys, but the frequency detection, we can actually then press the remote button near there, and it gives me the mode and the frequency that I require when I do the cloning of the key. So it's a quick diagnosis that the key is transmitting. The other function is we can also test the ring around the vehicle itself. So when you put it around the ring and do the test itself around a ring, it will then give you a detection area. Now I have a ring here, but I'm not sure whether it will give it. So if I put it near the ring, it gives me the type of transponder it is. So it's a quick way of testing and diagnosing the transponder reading from the mobilizer itself. So I thought I'd quickly show that, but we might do that later on in other videos. And the other thing that's been added to the Pad 7 software is in the service functions area. So you'll come down and we've added the odometer check, and it'll check the odometer of the vehicle in the modules to make sure everything's right and give you a report. It's very similar to when you do a VIN check. If you do a VIN check, it then checks all the modules, and I'll show you. It goes through and it actually checks all the modules to see if the VIN is recorded into the modules and then compares them. So in some cases the mobilizers that don't work properly, or it requires the VIN number to be in there, part of the security. So now it'll check to make sure that no modules are being changed with different VINs. So it's a quick way of diagnosing an issue regarding VIN numbers itself. So this is what I'm doing right now. There's a little bit of background noise here because it's very windy here today. So we'll just finish this off, and once it does that, you can see now it's checked that I've only got on my simulator one module but has the VIN, but it sees consistent, but it'll go through all the modules themselves and give you a report, and you can print that out. So that's been added to the PAD 7 since these videos have been done. So we'll just go back out. Now we'll go back right back. Now what I'm going to cover in today's video was the last two modules. Now the remote diagnosis is where we have two ways of doing it. Now the first way is with the PAD 7 comes with a SmartLink C connector, and then if you have a company that actually provides remote diagnosis for you remotely for some reason, or a friend, and he has what we call a B connector, he can actually use a launch equipment or OEM via the internet directly to the C connector to the vehicle itself to do the diagnosis or what functions you require. The other one is what we call scanner to scanner, or tech to tech, we used to call it. And this is where we talk a launch scan tool to a launch scan tool and do the remote diagnosis, or a PC, which is the web browser, to the scan tool itself via the internet itself. Now I thought I'll show you quickly about this one. So you click on it, and we've also added in the contact area a group chat. So you can actually do this. This is new to it. So you can form a group and actually use the social part of this, the media, to do a chat or meeting, a quick one. Now for the remote diagnosis, what you'll do is you'll go into here and you'll request a help, and you'll need to turn that on, and then supply, you select the vehicle that you're doing, so it's Ford, for instance, in my simulator, and you need to contact the person and give them that serial number. Now I'll show you regarding the interface. Now this is on the interface of the PC. The bottom screen is the scan tool that I just shown you, and then you got the interface, which is at the top, which is a PC browser interface. Now all you'll need to do is you'll need to just enter the serial number and hit the diagnosis. Once it's done, you can see that the scan tool will be taken over by the remote person or the technician at the end, and what he sees is what you see on the screen now. So I'll go in. As long as the VCI is hooked up and the ignition's turned on the vehicle, I can do the full functions. You can see the delay between because of the internet, but you'll see pretty well what you see on the screen now. So I just let it go through, and I just wanted to show you some of the screens regarding the remote diagnosis. So we've got topology now, like normal. So again, we'll do a quick scan so you can actually see the operation, and it all works fine. Okay, so once it's doing that, I can do a social media area. You can see here that I can click on here and I can talk to him directly via messaging. Okay, so you can do that. And then once I say, for instance, I go to body control, I can see all the information and everything like that. Okay, and I can enter the system also from that point and do all the functions. I use it regarding special functions, a lot to do even coding injectors remotely sometimes where people are not quite sure. So it's a good function in that way. But again, it's capable only with the software on the remote end. So the vehicle end, that scan tool software has to be updated to do those functions. If it doesn't have the latest software version, it might be missing out some of the functions that he can't do. So be aware of that also. Now once you've done the diagnosis, so I can read the fault codes. So for instance, I'll go in here and show you. You can see there are slightly different layout on the PC version, but I can see all the fault codes. Okay, and I just go back and go back to the main screens. So you can see me altering the pad itself. I have all the functions along the top here that I can see. Now once I finish the remote diagnosis, I can actually do a quick information, what I've done, and then I can confirm it, and then the report will be sent to the client. So he can actually see the report, and then in this report then I'll be able to see what I've been into and what were the fault codes on the scan tool itself. And I'll show you another area where you can actually see this. So that's the remote diagnosis, where we used to call it tech to tech, but it's launch scan tool to launch scan tool, or PC, which is the launcher's platform on the browser, to a launch scan tool via the internet. You just got to make sure the internet connections are good. So we'll go back now to the next module, which is the user interface information. Now, regarding the reports, all the history reports that you save will be here. So if you click on one, you can see it all here. Okay. Now, the other thing you can do is you can combine the battery report to your report that you send. So now we can do the battery test, which I showed you in the other module, and now we can combine the battery results of the test in that report, or a number of them in that report. So like I mentioned before, I connect up the battery tester with the alligator clip type, and then to the battery, and then the VCI, and then do the whole test in one go and give one report. Now the remote report is what I just did. So when I was in a remote diagnosis mode to another technician, the report is sent back to me, and again, this is where it's stored on this account. So I can actually see that I have had a remote diagnosis, and that's the RRD, what it represents. I can share it or print it out. The next one is the record data. So remember in data stream that we can actually record the data. It actually also sends it into this area that I can actually bring it back up and play it if I require to. So again, I just go OK, and then I can see it, I can play it as a graph form, and so forth. So this is where the recorded data can be played back in that format. The next one is the VCI. Now the VCI is regarding to the VCI serial number, purely all it is, and what devices are hooked up, and then make sure it is ticked. If it's not ticked, it may not talk to it. So make sure it is ticked, and then you should only have one VCI normally in most applications. I've got a number of them here because of, I've signed into different accounts, but you normally have one VCI itself. Now with the if you've got issues with the VCI regarding communications, it could possibly be the Wi-Fi signal that's been affected, and because it's 5G, in some cases there can be an interference between the 5G signals if other equipment are running 5G and transmitting signals out. And if that's the case, you probably could change it to Bluetooth. Now, normally you will not see this this area here, which is VCI management. Normally it's not listed when you first start the machine up, but how you get it, you click on this 5 times, the VCI 5 times, the VCI management will appear. And then you should be able to change it to Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. Now I recommend to stay Wi-Fi because of the speeds and so forth, and it's dedicated for that purpose. But if you do have issues regarding this, you can change it to Bluetooth as the default communications connections. So that's just a tip there. Now, activation of the VCI, purely if you're a new unit, normally the dealer will activate it and download the software the first time for you. But otherwise, if you receive the unit and it hasn't been registered, you'll need to activate it with a car serial number and an activation code which comes with the equipment. But in most cases, the dealers will do that for you. Now, normally if you've got issues with the VCI, the very thing it might be for some reason power surges, something corrupted the VCI when it's transmitted by Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. It's updates or something like that. So what we recommend you do is you click on this, confirm that the power supply on the VCI is stable and the right voltage, and then you can do a firmware connector fix and a system fix. Now this will take a bit of time to do this, allow that, so make sure the power supply to the VCI is very, very stable and it's maintained while this is happening. And this will actually do the software within the VCI. And as I said, the VCI is intelligent, it has its own operating system, and the software may be corrupted in some form for some reason. You need to do this and the problems might be solved there and then. Now the next one is the ADAS equipment section. Now this is regarding the information of the ADAS. It gets updated regarding what product or what equipment you have, if it's a Pro, if it's a Pro Plus, or the mobile asset. And what this does, it will check to see what updates you have regarding the information regarding that equipment, and you recommend to update this. Now you need to subscribe to the ADAS equipment, but you make sure that the versions is correct, and this is where you would do it. And it'll check me to see if I have a new version and I need to update it. And it's a matter of just clicking like the software itself. So for instance, this one here, I click on that and then I update it, and it does a download directly to the scanner and updates the equipment information regarding the ADAS itself. Now the next one is the sample. Sample is, remember, in the data stream area, we do a sample. We can do actually a sample. It's a maximum minimum. We can actually record and have an alarming system that if we're checking a sensor and it suddenly drops out, you can actually make the scan tool beep at you, make a noise that's upper or lower limits. Now this is where you would see it, and you can adjust it. You can also adjust it there and then, but you can adjust it later. So it's just a matter of going into this area here and changing the readings to a lower limit maybe. So we'll go to 1. Okay. Drop that, and then we will save that. And this will change the readings itself to the maximum minimum readings that you need in your data stream itself. So this is where you would do the alterations or see the readings themselves in this area itself, in the samples. Now the vehicle voltage test is purely looks at the earths and the power at the VCI area. Now it's a quick way of checking to see if the voltage is doing when it starts the car up. The VCI will warn you if it's around 11 volts and lower, but normally if you want to do a quick test, you would start the test. The VCI will communicate, and it's looking at the pins 6 and 4 and 5. It's actually looking at those pins and doing a test, and you can actually start the vehicle and see if it's a crank test and different things, if it's charging or not charging and so forth. So it's a quick vehicle voltage test. It's not a battery test. You can do the battery test with that and do the reports, but this is a quick way of doing the voltage test at the vehicle. But remember, it's at the diagnostic port area. So we'll go out of that and we'll stop that. My orders is the next one, is regarding when you purchase software, an order will be placed, but normally the dealer will do it all for you. He may send you a subscription card or a number to put in. So what you need to do is you come down to the subscription renewal card and then enter the large number, the 12-digit subscription card number in this area, and then it's purely to update your subscription itself from the scan tool area itself. So that's where you would enter the number for the subscription. The next one is the profile. Now this is the information of the account and so forth. If you want to change your picture on the avatar, you can click on it here, select the picture or take a photo, and then and save it. Your nickname you can change, okay, and your details if you want to, but the main thing is to check the update period. If you hit the update period, it will actually show when your expiry software expires and the date, and so it gives you an idea. I need to update the software soon. So if you want to quickly check it, you can go this area and check it itself. I'll just go back. Okay. Password, as long as you got the old password, you can plug it in here and change the password number if you require. But normally, very rarely would somebody else wants to know it. But you can do it from this point. Settings. Now the settings is where you set up everything regarding the printing and home page and about the software itself, the interface. So you can change the English to metric imperial measurements, so it defaults to that. The shop information, if that's all correct, you can actually do that, which is I can change any time. So I go in here and change it to, so I back it off. I'm just using the scan tool here. That's why and just Sydney, say for instance. Okay, and then lower the screen, and then I save it, and then it'll change that area. Okay, so that's what you'll see in the shop information on the printed report itself. Regarding the printer, if you've purchased a launch printer, you would have to select here and set up the printer, and it's directly from scanner to the printer itself, from the tablet to the printer. Otherwise, if you're using a normal office printer and it's Wi-Fi, you'll be able to pick it up from here and you hit system itself, and then you can actually search it via the share area of when you do the reports itself. The home display, so the very front of the display, if you want to change it, you can alter it. You can do it intelligently, where more I use it, it alters those to the top screen. So it alters itself, what functions. If I'm doing remote diagnosis all the time, it'll move towards the front of those first few modules in the front screen itself. And you just click it. For some reason you want to change it or customize it for yourselves. The clear architect means if you've got issues with the software and for some reason it downloaded and had problems with the internet, you can clear the architect completely here and start again. And that's what this is purpose for. So be prepared to do it. You have to be on a good internet site to make sure you do the updating. So otherwise it will you'll need to make sure that it downloads correctly. Now about means that this is the APK version. You can check it to see if it's the latest version, and it'll tell you that it's the latest version, and the policies and service agreements are also here. The diagnostic software is pretty it shows you exactly if it's auto or not. The device management is regarding if you're in a workshop area, for some reason your scan tool is shared by other people, you can have separate accounts that actually just have the information for that person on that account. But normally the scan tool will come with one account, which is the main account. You can have sub-accounts for the other technicians, but otherwise it will be the owner, and that's the main account. And lockout is like normal. You would lock it out and you log in. You must be logged in before you do any of the special functions or software upgrades or any information coming from the server itself. You need to log in for the scan tool, and you'll need to do this on a regular basis itself. If you want to share reports and everything, you must be logged in for your account. So that comes to the end of this series of videos. This is the video 4. I recommend you go back to video 1 and go through if you haven't seen it before. And what I'll do is in the future I might break up the modules and cover the separate equipment and modules on their own in future videos regarding the functions or part of the diagnosis as I do with some of these videos now. So thank you for your patience, and I hope you enjoy the videos, and I'll catch you in the next one.